Mr. Speaker, the TSCA Modernization Act has been a long time in coming. We actually started working on this bill in the last Congress. We held a total of 8 hearings and received testimony from a broad range of stakeholders, including the administration. But most importantly, we worked with each other, member to member, across the aisle. The bill before you, Mr. Speaker, reflects lessons learned over the course of the last 3 years in which we've worked on TSCA reform. First, the bill is clear and understandable. Despite the highly technical nature of chemical regulation, members can pick up this bill, read it, and from beginning to end and understand what it does and how it works. Second, the bill does not try to be all things for all people. Major sections of TSCA are not amended at all. For example, we leave the process for new chemical review in TSCA Section 5 unchanged because it's working pretty well right now, and changes could make it worse. The heart of the bill is our approach to regulating chemicals already in the market. Thousands of these chemicals have been in commerce for many years, and they pose no known risk and really don't need to be regulated at all. We leave those alone. But we do allow some existing chemicals to be scientifically evaluated for risk and, if necessary, to have that risk managed through a rule by the EPA. Chemicals may be chosen for risk evaluation in one of 2 ways. Either EPA may select a chemical for risk evaluation based on what EPA knows may pose an unreasonable risk, or the manufacturer may designate a chemical for EPA to evaluate for risk. Now, why would a manufacturer invite EPA scrutiny of its product? There are several reasons. First, some interest or even retailer may be raising concerns about a product and the manufacturer wants to put those concerns to rest. Or one of 2 states may be thinking about regulating the chemical. The state-by-state approach can spell disasters for someone trying to capture economics of scale in a national market. What better way to put these concerns to rest than to have EPA, with the scientific standards that we require, perform an objective risk evaluation? Then the EPA decision on that chemical will apply in all states, and consumers and the public can have the confidence that the chemical is safe for its intended use. Another area in the legislation that required careful discussion and negotiation is preemption. Of course, we want to make sure national markets are just that, and not a patchwork of restrictions varying state to state. At the same time, we did not want to deny anyone a legitimate cause for action under state tort or contract law. So that is what we said. As long as the state law does not conflict with the federal ruling, the state action may continue. The bill has strict but attainable deadlines for action. If EPA initiates a risk evaluation, it must finish in 3 years. If a manufacturer initiates one and includes the information EPA needs to make a decision, EPA should finish that in 2 years. Once the risk evaluation is complete, if EPA decides a rule is needed to manage the risk, EPA must propose a rule within 1 year. The risk evaluation itself only asks, does the chemical present an unreasonable risk of injury to health and the environment? That's a science question based on a combination of hazard and actual exposure. If there is an unreasonable risk, the agency's decision on how to manage it is based on many other factors such as cost effectiveness, whether restricting an article will actually reduce exposure, whether replacements are available, and many other concerns. H.R. 2576 permits EPA to regulate articles in those areas where regulation of chemical substances and mixtures alone would not be effective to reduce the identified risk, but requires EPA to be careful in addressing replacement parts that serve a commercially intended function or the original product or are needed to maintain the functionality of the original product. We think this system sets a new standard for quality regulation. Of course, we want to be protected from harm, but we do not want needless, expensive regulation. Consumers want safe choices, not no choice at all. Mr. Speaker, we are on the brink of setting up a common sense approach to protecting people from unsafe chemical exposure that will become the standard of the world. We want our constituents to be safe, and we want markets to work. This bill delivers both. With that, Mr. Speaker, I reserve the balance of my time.
Gentleman reserves the balance of his time. Gentleman.